Hello everyone, welcome back. Right now you're about to 3D print something. I'm assuming you're done with whatever object you've got. I'm just using this random object to show you how to export things from Inventor and then import them into Cura for 3D printing. So first off, you need to make sure that once you've gotten your file finished, you save it. It should save it as the normal IPT file that you've been saving it as, but just save it one final time to make sure everything is actually the way you want it. Next, you need to export, and you want to export it as a CAD format. Okay? Now notice that it's going to pop up with one of these other save as types, and it just populated the file name with your file name, whatever it was. You should not change your file name, okay? As you know, the extensions tell you what kind of file it is, and that should be good enough for you to figure out which one to click on for whatever purpose you're going to open the file for. Now, to get this from the part into Cura, you need to save this as an STL file, okay? Click Save, and what you're going to notice is that whatever you were working on, let's go ahead and refresh this. Boom, right there. We were working on square circle diamond.ipt, which is an Autodesk Inventor part. Now we've got square circle diamond as a STL, which is it's reading as a 3D object. My computer is set to automatically read these as a Cura file, and it will open it with Cura if I just double click that file. I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to open Cura. This is already on some of my computers. If they are marked with Cura, it has this on it. And it should come up with Cura i3 Edition. It should have this little insignia right there at the top. Additionally, all of these things, if you have already used that program, it should already have these settings set. Your bed, your print speed, your printing temperature, your bed temperature, raft, all that stuff needs to have already been set, and that is not covered in this video. If you have not yet covered those things, you need to go find the video and follow that video that tells you how to do that stuff. For now, we need to load our model that we just created. Now, wherever your file was, mine automatically populated to where I wanted to be. So I'm just going to double click my file, and it pops it right there on the print bed. Now keep in mind that this print bed that's shown here is showing your print bed. Okay? Your home is the location of that little thing right there. Okay? Now, a couple of quick things I want to show you. First of all, scale. If you print this thing out and it's way too large or way too small, like by an order of magnitude of 10, you can change this by simply changing the scale, or if you know what size you want the object to be in millimeters, you can change that and it will proportionately change the other dimensions as well. So for example, well, if you've got it locked as uniform scale, you can distort it if you unlock that. If I wanted to double the size of it, I can very easily do so just by typing in 2.0 for the X or Y or Z, and it'll apply the needed measurements to the other fields. Now notice we had this pop up here with info. Print one at a time mode is disabled. The object is too tall. You see how it's now 38 millimeters tall? Well, that is above the 35 millimeter gantry height that we set in an earlier video. So it will not allow you to print these things one at a time if you are printing multiple of these. If you are only printing one, it will be just fine. Okay, so if you want to have this thing that size, great, cool, bonus. Now, what we need to do now is look at a couple of other things. Let's see, I want to look at the layers. Let's check the layers out for a second. Okay, now right now what this is going to do, I'm just going to cut halfway down through this thing, and you see this grid work that has shown up here inside of that? That's because when you 3D print things, this program, what its purpose is for is called slicing. This is where it takes your object and it figures out how to create the object not as a solid object. So this grid work, these lines are literally where the filament would be laid down, because right now the fill density is set to 5%. Now, if I increase that to say, I don't know, 20%, I see it's 9.5 hours and 53 grams of material. Drum roll, please. Now it's 13, almost 14 hours and 90 grams of material. Yeah, I got it. And now look at this. Look at how much closer these grid lines are to one another. Now, that means that there's a significantly larger amount of filament inside of this object. That's going to give you both a stronger, heavier object, but it's going to take longer to print. It's going to take more material. Therefore, it's going to cost us more to do this. Okay? This number, this $2.06 that's right there, that's based on the price of the printer filament. Okay? Now, looking at this thing, thinking about the use of this object, you can adapt this fill density for different purposes. If this is an object that needs to have or be able to support a lot of force, then having a fill density of 20% or greater might work for you. Okay? Because if you've got a 20% fill density, that's going to be a very strong object. You're not going to be able to crush this thing, shear this thing, or anything else like that. If you take this down to a 5% fill density, what you're going to notice is that you can press down on the top of that thing and it's going to give a little bit because there's so much space in between there. And this object is going to be easier to just take it and actually rotate it and shear it, where you turn this in one direction and this in the other direction, and it'll turn itself off. So yeah, you need to figure out what's best for your object according to the stresses that it's going to be placed under. Now, back to normal for a second. If you look at this thing, the machine automatically placed this thing flat based on, if we look at our XYZ orientation system, let's go ahead and start a 2D sketch. Come on. No, you're not going to? Okay. That's all right. I've taxed my computer enough today. Basically, this plane right here that this thing is resting on is this XY plane that's right here already. Okay? A lot of times, if you clicked a different plane, it would be in a different orientation. Okay? You need to set this thing so that way it's resting the best on the base. So right now, I've clicked this overhang. If I go back to normal, you can't see this, but the overhang area, the red area is the area that is either A, supported by the bed itself, or B, supported by normal rafting materials. This whole structure out here is not supported. Okay, so you would need to figure out something in order to change that, whether you're changing your support type or whatever. I would recommend, and I do strongly recommend this, that you always make sure, I don't want to click there, that you turn your object so that way the largest surface area is touching. Okay? In this case, it's like that. If I turned it the other way, could I print it like this? Could I? Absolutely. However, it's going to build up fill material to support this structure, the circle, and this larger square. So that means you're going to have to break that material off and smooth that material back out. If you put it the other way, with this large square on the bottom, it's going to be a much better print because these will be smoother surfaces and it'll be able to give the detail it needs to there. But that's just part of the fun of learning 3D printing, as you learn what the best method is for your particular cases. Now, we have gone over setting it, we have gone over fill density, and we have gone over scaling it, which I'm going to go ahead and scale this back to 1 because I don't need a 2" by 2" or a 4" by 4" block. A 2" by 2" will be fine. Now, another thing to note, all of these dimensions are in millimeters. Now, with Inventor and its importing abilities, you'll notice that sometimes it imports things in the right units and other times it doesn't. Okay? There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason, because if you look at the dimensions on our object, let's see here, model, I want to inspect distances from here to there. It's giving me a 1" dimension, okay? Or if I click from here to here, it's giving me a 2" dimension. These printers print out in metric, okay? They are only in millimeters. Cura only works in millimeters. So for some reason it's reading it in this case. I can't explain as to why that is, but it is. Now, another thing we need to do, once it's sized on there correctly, once you can look at it and it looks, yes, 2" by 2"-ish, it looks like it's in an appropriate spot, you've got a couple of options. If this is exactly how you want it to be, cool, print it, export your G-code. Let's say you want multiple of these objects. I don't need one of these things. I need a total of 4, so I want 3 copies of this thing. Oh, it can't. Yeah, let's go ahead and see this. All right, so here's the deal. It went ahead and it made multiple copies of it. It's now going to take more time. It's now going to take more material, and it's now going to cost more. Also, you see how it says print all at one time? Well, I can print it all at one time, and I can move these things anywhere I want. Okay? The thing is that the closer they are, the more likely the raft material is going to be one large raft as opposed to individual smaller rafts. The larger the raft is, the more the raft is likely to break off and warp. That's why, personally, I prefer print one at a time. Now, do you see this gray box that popped up around this object? That is the geometry that we set in for the print head in the prior video when we were setting the machine settings. When you set it to print one at a time, it automatically moves these other things out of the way. Now, if we had more objects, let's say I go ahead and say I want 2 more copies of this thing. Yeah, go ahead and place them. It just bumped a bunch of things off of here. And you start ending up playing this game where you're trying to fit everything on there. In fact, I don't even see 2 of them. Okay? And if it's grayed out, it is not going to print that object. So you have to move them around, and it's going to automatically move things for you. Okay? It becomes a really infuriating game to get all of your stuff on there. However, that's part of the trade-off that you have to deal with when you're using this equipment. One of the things that you have to do. So, once you've gotten it decided, we need to go ahead and export this, but we need to export this to one of our micro SD cards. So, all of my laptops have a port for you to export it to a micro SD card. What you're going to do is click Save G-Code, and then you need to find the file or the drive to put it on. So I inserted card C. We want to put card C on there. You'll notice that there's a bunch of projects on there. Click Save. It should populate with your normal file name, and it should have a .g code, which is the form you need it to be. Click Save. It'll generate it, and it saved it in the location. In subsequent videos, I will show you how to enter this thing into the monoprice printers that we have. Other than that, we are now done with this video. Good luck.